All right, we got the worst Gooner deaths ever. Why is there so many? Why is there 6 incidents of Gooner deaths? Like, what is going on?
The asphyxiation gooning.
Hold on. My fault, guys.
Incident. On June 4th, the asphyxiation gooning incident. On June 14th, 1994, a 38-year-old man left his small home in Asheville, North Carolina, telling his family he was going for an evening walk to clear his mind. He often visited a wooded area behind a local park when he wanted privacy, and the route was familiar enough that no one thought much of it. Clad in casual outdoor clothing and carrying a small backpack, he walked into the tree line just before sunset, disappearing into the dense, quiet forest. As daylight faded, he ventured farther off the main path than usual, eventually stopping in a secluded clearing about 50 yards from the trail. He set down his backpack, removed several personal items, and began preparing an arrangement using a rope tied between 2 sturdy trees. The setup appeared practiced, done with deliberate care, suggesting this was not the first time he had been in this spot or engaged in this ritual. As night deepened, the man engaged in a sequence that involved controlled pressure and suspended positioning. At some point during the process, however, he shifted his weight incorrectly or misjudged the timing. The rope system, meant to allow controlled release, failed to do so once he lost consciousness. The moment he blacked out, his body became completely unsupported. Without the ability to adjust himself or break free, he remained suspended in a kneeling position, slumped forward and unable to breathe. Hours passed, and the forest remained quiet and undisturbed. The next afternoon, on June 15th, a group of hikers walked along the same trail, taking advantage of the warm weather. About half an hour into the hike, one of them noticed something odd. When they moved closer and saw the unmoving posture of the kneeling figure, they realized something was wrong. They immediately called 911. When
The hell are
paramedics
you
arrived,
watching?
they confirmed he had been dead for many hours. Investigators recognized the pattern as a classic case of accidental death during a private, high-risk solitary act of gooning. The goon side.
So you tell me this nigga tied his neck? This nigga deadass tied his neck between trees to start gooning? What is niggas doing?
Incident. On January 8th, death during a private, high-risk solitary act of gooning. The goon side incident. On January 8th, 2025, a 27-year-old man named Nautica Malone drove his sedan into the...
Oh my gosh, you got Nautica, bro. Oh my gosh, bro. I'm not trying to laugh. Yeah, no, I think that shit is pretty stupid by that nigga, bro. What do you mean why would you do that? Nah, but Nautica, bro.
drive-through lane of Bikini Beans Coffee in Tempe, Arizona, just after 7 a.m. He had left home unusually early that morning, according to his family, saying he needed fresh air and a change of scenery. As he approached the service window, a barista preparing for the morning rush noticed him rolling forward at a slow, measured pace. When he reached the window, she greeted him, expecting a routine order. But within seconds, she realized Nautica had no pants on. She pulled out her phone and began recording the encounter, capturing the man's quiet, vacant expression as he sat behind the wheel. The video lasted only a few seconds before the car eased forward and exited the lane. The clip was shared privately at first, circulating among coworkers, but by late afternoon it had been forwarded again and again until someone uploaded it to social media. Within hours, it was widely circulating across multiple platforms, gathering captions, jokes, and commentary. Over the next 2 days, Malone withdrew from friends and family. According to relatives, he stayed mostly in his room, leaving only briefly to pick up mail or get water. He ignored calls from coworkers, disabled several of his social media accounts, and stopped responding to messages. His brother later told reporters that the shame and public attention seemed to overwhelm him almost instantly, and on the morning of January 11th, Malone left home quietly. He drove west toward Goodyear, Arizona, taking a long, looping route along the highway, avoiding busier exits. At some point during the drive, he called his brother, but the call went unanswered. When the brother returned the call minutes later, it rang without response. Just after 3 p.m., a passerby walking through a quiet parking area near a small business park noticed a black sedan parked at an odd angle beneath a tree. The engine was off, and the driver inside appeared completely still. The passerby approached slowly and tapped on the window, but there was no movement. Alarmed, they dialed 911 and reported an unresponsive person in a vehicle. Police and paramedics arrived within minutes. After forcing the door open, responders determined Malone had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, with the estimated time of death several hours earlier. A firearm was recovered inside the vehicle. On his phone, officers found a short message addressed to his family, written earlier that morning, apologizing for the pain he felt he had caused them. The falling...
Damn, Nautica. The craziest part is someone ducks the worker at the drive-thru. Like, why? No, niggas was wilding. There was this one nigga, I don't know what. He was doing, you know, the protests outside the Dunkin' Donuts. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's so like, it's so dumb. Like what he did was low key. Like, what are you doing? Like, I can't Goonga. Yeah, nah, that dude, he's topped in the head, bro. I'm not even gonna lie. Niggas like him is just niggas be doing. He's a kick type of nigga, bro. She was in the right, dead ass.
Gooner incident. On March 18th, 2011,
The
a
fallen
32-year-old
Gooner.
man returned to his small Milwaukee studio apartment after a long work shift. He dropped his keys on the counter, turned on his TV for background noise, and headed straight for the bathroom. A few minutes later, he decided he wanted to goon. He brought a small stool from the living room and placed it beside the bathtub. He propped his phone upright against a shampoo bottle, playing a video he wanted to goon to. Based on the coroner's
This nigga is gooning like it's a freaking movie, like it's a cinema. Oh my gosh.
office reconstruction, he climbed onto the small stool so he could goon in a certain position, but the stool wasn't stable on the slippery bathroom tiles. While he was in action, the stool suddenly slid out from under him. He lost his balance instantly. He fell backward, hitting his head hard on the
I should be laughing. I'm not laughing at the fact that he hit his head, bro. But why is this freaking huge, bro? Why is this freaking meat out like this, bro? And it's just stupid. Like, what do you mean he's gooning on a stool?
edge of the bathtub and was knocked unconscious immediately. With no one else in the apartment to help him, he stayed on the floor without ever waking up. When he didn't show up for work the next morning, his co-workers requested a welfare check. The landlord entered the apartment and found the scene unchanged. The phone still playing, the stool overturned, and the man lying on the bathroom floor where
That's gotta be an embarrassing way to go out. Imagine like niggas walked in on you, like just watching this shit while gooning, and you're just dead gooning. Like, oh my gosh.
he had fallen. Paramedics were called to the scene and they confirmed he had died from a head injury caused by the fall. The ladder incident. On June 11th, 2019,
A ladder incident. Don't tell me this nigga's gooning on a ladder, bro.
a 38-year-old man in rural Oregon carried an aluminum ladder behind his house and placed it against a tall pine tree at the edge of his property. He often climbed the tree to get cell reception, and neighbors later reported that he had a habit of spending long periods alone outdoors. That afternoon, he set up the ladder in a secluded spot and climbed roughly 15 feet up, settling on a sturdy branch. He began engaging in gooning while seated on the branch.
Like, nigga. No, these niggas are getting murked because of this shit. This is stupid. Like, come on, in that tree, my nigga. Like, why are you climbing up to goon, bro? Like, what's going on?
Believing he was out of sight and in complete solitude. As the minutes passed, he shifted his weight repeatedly, bracing his foot against the tree trunk while using the other to maintain balance. The branch beneath him was stable, but the ladder he had climbed was not properly secured. At some point during his activity, his movement caused the ladder to tilt backward. Startled, he reached instinctively toward it, losing his balance on the branch in the process. Within seconds, he tumbled together with the ladder down the slope beneath the tree, striking the ground chest first. A hiker on a nearby trail heard the crash and discovered him unconscious.
Why is it animated? That's what I'm saying.
The flattened ladder. Emergency services were called immediately, but despite resuscitation efforts, he was pronounced dead at the scene from blunt force trauma to the thorax, including multiple fractured ribs and cardiac injury. During the investigation, police found his phone, open browser tabs, and physical evidence confirming he had been engaging in solitary sexual activity moments before the fall. The D-cut incident.
Okay, nigga, what the flip is this, nigga? Why is he bloody, bro? And I heard cuts. Oh my god.
On July 14th, 2016, a 45-year-old man returned to his small apartment in Eastern Europe after a day of running errands. He set down his bags, turned on a small radio for background noise, and made his way to the bedroom. He retrieved a homemade metal device he had been experimenting with and brought it to the bed, arranging it carefully for use. Based on investigators' reconstruction, he attempted to use the device while sitting on the edge of the bed. The device was unstable and one of the metal parts suddenly...
I don't want to hear more. I really don't want to hear this shit. This is gonna hurt me, bro. Oh!
snapped under pressure. The broken piece caused a deep cut to his groin. He tried to stop the bleeding, but the wound was severe and involved a major blood vessel. Alone in the apartment, he was unable to get help or call emergency services. Within minutes, he lost consciousness due to rapid blood loss. When he didn't respond to friends who visited later that evening, a welfare check was requested. Authorities entered the apartment and found the scene unchanged, the device broken, and the man lying unconscious on the bed where he had been attempting to use the device. Paramedics confirmed that he had died from hemorrhagic shock caused by the laceration. The obsessed Gooner incident.
Like, ouch! What are you doing with something metal, bro? What's wrong with this nigga, bro? Obsessed Gooner, bro, as well, bro. Flip.
On October 14th, 2020, a 33-year-old man woke up in his small apartment in the city. His nights had become sleepless, spent scrolling through videos and live streams of a single adult performer he believed was secretly communicating with him. To him, every post, every glance at the camera was a coded message meant only for him. Investigators later found that he had stopped going to work, cut of his friends and family, and had isolated himself almost entirely. Notes, screenshots, and printed messages littered his apartment, all
Oh,
meticulously
nah.
annotated with interpretations of the performer's signals. Over time, his fixation had escalated. He convinced himself that he needed to meet her in person to prove his loyalty. That morning, he packed a backpack with essentials, including a handwritten letter and several printed screenshots, and left his apartment. He
Nigga.
traveled by public transit to the city where he believed she was filming, following directions pieced together from interviews and online posts. For hours, he wandered near the area, checking security cameras and rehearsing what he would say. He refused to contact anyone for help, believing that any interference would ruin everything. As evening approached, he attempted to climb a fire escape to get a closer look at the studio where he believed she was working. Surveillance footage later showed him pause midway, hesitate, then lose his footing. Emergency responders arrived too late. He was already dead. The medical examiner ruled the death an accidental fall, noting that exhaustion, sleep deprivation, and distraction from obsessive fixation had contributed to his fall. Law enforcement later confirmed that the adult performer had no knowledge of his existence, had never communicated with him, and played no role in the accident.
Fuck. I must suck, bro. Why is there a part two? We'll come back to a part two one day, bro. These niggas just all of this shit is just stupid. Like, what's wrong with niggas? Like,